Mr. Lawlor. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Very good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited.
Thank you for coming on, mate. I mean, it's quite brave and treacherous path to tread when you're coming onto someone's first ever podcast. So I'm very
Yeah,
impressed that you decided to do so.
I don't know what to expect. You could be completely bonkers. Who knows?
I mean,
We'll
have you seen
find out
that?
soon.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Says
a
it all, really,
worrying
doesn't
sign.
it? So yeah, I mean, just crack on. Thank you again. Just want to give you a little bit of gratitude on that behalf. But obviously,
No,
for
that's right.
everyone who
Anytime.
doesn't know, Ted is the host and founder of If Only They Knew, which is both the hub for young business minds, is that what we call it?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah.
So it's essentially a media outlet for young entrepreneurs, as well as running your own podcast. And obviously, I think you launched it back in 2017, didn't you?
Yeah, well, around that sort of time. I started it. I did a couple episodes, and for whatever reason, I sort of just stopped doing it. I think I didn't realize how valuable it actually was. And yeah, earlier this year, in January this year, started it back up again, and here we are. It's picking up a lot of momentum. So
Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent. No, it's impressive, man. Because you said from what I've read so far, you started that when you were 19. Which I've got to be honest, mate. When I was 19, the last thing I was thinking about was starting a business. It was more where to find my next drink.
yeah. Well, yeah, I've never been sort of like one to go out too much. Obviously, I've been out every now and then, but it's sort of always focused on what I can do work-wise and stuff. I sort of look after that element of my life before anything else. But of course, I go out every now and then, but
Every now
not
and
as much,
It would be
Yeah,
rude
every
not
now
to,
and
wouldn't
then.
it? It would be rude not to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So 19, and you studied at Anglia Ruskin, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I studied business and marketing there.
Okay. Which campus were you on? Because there's like 4 or 5, aren't there?
Yeah, I was in the crap campus in London. It was a tiny
Excellent.
little like shed. Yeah, it was horrible.
Okay. So why did you have to end up choosing that one? Because obviously that's where the best kind of business outlets were in terms of education, or?
Well, I picked that just because, in terms of, again, I was sort of looking more at the work side of things. So in terms of work, they obviously in London, it had the best work opportunities for me. Like I had a job lined up in the area, literally about 10 minutes down the road. Yeah, and my timetable was two days a week. So it's literally just a case of me going there for 2 days a week, and then the rest of the week I was working down the road. So yeah, it's worked out well.
Oh, mate, that's you falling on your feet on that one. That's decent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a proper good turnout, and obviously it meant I could save money whilst learning. So yeah, it was a good little setup. It worked out well.
Best of both worlds. No, that's good. That's hard to find. I was doing a little bit of digging on Anglia Ruskin because I just wanted to see the campus, because I didn't know.
No.
I actually, honestly, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know where it was, and obviously, you've got the Cambridge one, East Anglia, you've got Kent, you've got Peterborough. And does the name Pok Wong ring any bells to you?
It doesn't. No, why? What's he done to me in the past?
Nothing
What
to
have I done to
you.
him?
Nothing to you. Nothing to
Okay,
you.
good.
I just found this
Yeah.
really funny because Pok Wong, better known as Fiona Wong from Hong Kong, is a student that came and studied at Anglia Ruskin and then sued the university.
No way. What for?
Because apparently they'd falsely advertised, in her mind, they'd falsely advertised that it was going to be a high echelon in terms of a high quality course that was going to propel her career forwards. And she ended up saying it was a Mickey Mouse degree and it did nothing of the sort. And she did international business strategy and got a first, which I've got to be honest, mate. You're having an interview right now with a 2-2. I mean, that's a sociable degree. That wasn't, I would be happy with a first right now. You know what I mean? But so she ended up suing them, and from what I read, she actually won. She actually got them to pay out 61k, which is such a ridiculous amount,
God.
mate. That was the price for a 3-year course, man. I mean, prices got for international students. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And and she was happy to walk away with that. And now she's working as a paralegal or something. But I know you got a first in business and marketing, which is bloody impressive. How did you feel about your course and your teachers and your lecturers? Like, did you reckon you learned, and do you reckon it was a worthwhile course?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me in that situation, I sort of thought about this a lot. Obviously, during this period, I was like, well, I'm probably going to give up. It's pretty crap. It didn't feel like it was working out for me, but it was a good stopgap because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I joined I did business and marketing because I knew I had a passion for marketing, but I didn't know whether I really was good at it or not. So it was good to have those 3 years to think, you know what, I actually am okay at it at least. So yeah, it was well worth the experience and the practice, I guess. But it could have been a lot more practically focused, I think. But I guess that's another story.
Interesting, you should say that. We'll come back to that in a second.
Okay, cool.
No, it's cool. When you say it should be more practically focused, that's definitely something I've encountered. And I think there's something severely lacking in higher education. Well, in higher education, but more specifically to undergraduate degrees. But as I said, we'll rush back to that in a second. So it's a bit of a broad question, but I have a 15-year-old brother, half my age. Don't ask questions. Don't tell anyone. And he's just gone through this COVID issue with GCSEs and everything like that, and obviously they've been pushed back. Now, what would you say, not necessarily to him, but in general, do you think it's worthwhile going to university for anyone with an entrepreneurial mindset, or would you say it's worth them maybe doing an apprenticeship, or even just sticking their hand out, living at home, and starting a business by themselves?
You know what? I'm trying not to say it depends, but I think the best thing to do, if you are really of that mindset and you feel like you're good enough to get involved in that sort of journey, because it's not just a career, being an entrepreneur, I feel like it's more of a journey. So if you do want to get involved in that journey, I think try set up a business whilst you can. But you can do what I did, set it up whilst in uni. But obviously if you're doing a more sort of high risk business, like selling physical products or something like that, it's a whole different story. But yeah, I'd say get the experience any way you can. Prioritize experience over education, because I only went to marketing as a degree, like I said. One, just for the sort of practice, and two, because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to start my own business or not. I didn't know I wanted to do that until I was in uni. So yeah, I think get the experience. Prioritize the experience over uni and education. It's not necessarily needed, because if you're not going to work for somebody else, why would you need that qualification when you could have the experience instead?
No, I'm on that wavelength, mate, without a shadow of a doubt. I've always thought that, and in all fairness, I kind of regret doing my undergrad. In all fairness, it wasn't sociology, so why would you not?
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
One of those things. But no, thank you for saying that, and I'm sure he's watching this, so he can learn firsthand. It is all about experience, because at the end of the day, it's you don't have many. I mean, unless you're doing a specific degree with specific training, you don't have as many transferable skills. And as you were just saying before, this leads on to what you were saying about you had a little bit of a passion for marketing, but you thought your degree could have been more practical. And more practical in what sense?
Like, I feel like that didn't really learn much that filled me with confidence to say, you know what, if this degree was to end tomorrow, I didn't feel like I had enough experience to go out there and actually just have a graduate marketing job. Like exactly, I didn't feel comfortable for that graduate level, let alone anything higher than that. And I sort of felt like that until like the last day of uni. Like I was still like, I don't feel confident enough. But yeah, I feel like I don't know how they could have made it more practical. Maybe like even setting up fake businesses or something, like projects. Like if they made us do
with an idea.
yeah, I think if they did sort of maybe made us do what I did with If Only They Knew, like set up a social media page, just start off with that and prove that you can promote something and market something, that would have been a good start. I feel like, which is why I done it. I probably should have told someone at the uni that was a good idea, because it seems to have worked out.
Mate, imagine that. Imagine having these little focus groups, little squadrons where you can just go and you have a dedicated tutor who can go around teaching you how to do social media marketing properly, teach you Facebook ads and all that stuff. I mean, you come out of the university thinking, Jesus Christ, well, I mean, I don't have to go and pay £1,000 to, I don't know, Tom, Dick and Harry down the road and learn how to do it from them, because I'm actually getting a decent education. So, I mean, exactly. With that in mind, I maybe Pok Wong had a point.
Yeah, I wish I knew that. I would have sued them as well, mate. I would have sued them for every penny they had. I would have been suing people over the gap. Don't worry.
Don't get done for defamation now, mate. Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way. So I did my undergrad in sociology, right? And that was a fucking waste of time, mate.
Yeah.
I really wish I hadn't. But then I actually I had a year in work, and then I did a master's degree in marketing as well. So I found that significantly more practical. So with that in mind, I remember I barely turned up to my sociology lectures, but within a day, during my induction at Cranfield, they said, it's basically, if you don't turn up 2 or 3 times in a row, we're going to take it as you're not interested, and we can't be bothered to teach you, so don't come back. I mean, I don't think you ever did. You ever get that in your undergrad? Because I certainly didn't.
No, it weren't like that. They obviously said that, but what was happening was a lot of people were coming in, like not coming in, and getting like one designated person to tap all their ID cards and their attendance cards on their behalf. So yeah, there was a bit of like a bit of a scheme going on. So it was a slightly different story.
Mate, yeah, honestly, tech wasn't the same when I was at uni. So back to your passion for marketing. What was it about marketing that made you really want to get on with it and then move into starting IOTK?
I don't know what it was. Like my boss asked me this the other day. Like my boss at my 9 to 5, she was sort of trying to tap into why I started the page and stuff, and why I like marketing. I think the main reason I like marketing is because I like sort of creating something and pushing it out there into the world and sort of seeing the feedback and the results from it. And I sort of like having my own project. Like I was an only child, so I liked having my own things, doing it my own way, and then putting it out there in my own way, and sort of having the results come back to me, like with no one else in the process. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what it sort of was. I just liked the whole process of starting something, finishing it, and like getting the results, really.
No, I like that, mate. I like that. And so how did you end up applying that to IOTK? Because from what I've read, you've obviously, you learned to build your own website. You started your own podcast as well. How did you go about building your website in the first place?
Well, like I sort of touched upon there, like I just want to make it clear that I've done it literally all myself. Like if I've used an external program, like I found that program, obviously, like with the websites and stuff. Mm-hmm. Just as a point to anyone listening who thinks, oh, I need someone to do this, I need someone to do that. Like you really don't. Like there's websites out there like Fiverr.com, like Wix, like a drag and drop website creator. Like there's things out there that will help you do it. Without having too much external involvement. But with the website, yeah, like literally, it was something I debated on even creating, like, because I had my Instagram page, which was doing quite well, and I had like strong following on there. And I was like, do I even need a website? Like, what do I need a website for? What I was doing in the early days was with my blog posts, instead of being blog posts, it was literally just in the caption of the Instagram post. So like the Instagram post was like so long and so like, so many words in it, and it just like looked a mess. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what, I need a website, like freshen it out, sort of not have it all relying on Instagram. So yeah, literally just Googled how to create a website, Wix.com, drag and drop, and yeah, create the website. It's literally as easy as that. Like yeah, there was no agencies or no help in that sense. It literally just Wix.com, drag and drop, boom.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because I think there's a lot of confusion and a lot of overconflation between what you need to do and basically where you need to go to actually build something as simple as a website at the end of the day. And yours is, it's beautifully laid out, may I just say.
Oh, thanks.
And what I might just say as well, mate, you've done fantastically for where you are so far. And
thank you, I appreciate that.
In terms of the website as well, what I quite like as well is the kind of blue branding you've gone for as well. I mean, that's another thing that people often get hung up on. Like, how is my logo going to look? What kind of color scheme should I go for? I can ask, what was your thought process around like deciding on going for the blue and going for IOTK with the crown as well?
Mate, it was a mess. So, like, if anyone who's been following my page from the start, and maybe some people in the live, if they've come from my page, they might know like a bit earlier on. Like when I first started with the branding, it was terrible. It was literally like black and white, really like punk themed. Like it was sort of like, this was the logo I think back then, which is why I stuck with it, just sort of for like nostalgia's sake. Mm-hmm. It was sort of like that, but really like urban-y, dark, smoke, like all that sort of effect, and which was, I felt was good at the start. And then I transfer, like, you know, like I think you evolve naturally, which is like another point I'd like to make for anyone listening. Like, don't sort of get stuck up on, oh, this is how it was, so this is how it should be. Like, feel free to evolve. Like, people won't sort of, there won't be really any negative effects for sort of evolving, especially in terms of branding. You know, like, you might lose sort of a bit of your brand image, but you can change it into something else. So yeah, it's black and white. Then it was like a Union Jack with like this sort of font on it.
Nice, mate. Go national, like it.
Yeah, because it was like, my page is If Only They Knew UK, and I only have the UK because If Only They Knew was taken, like, on Instagram. So I put the UK just because I didn't want to put an underscore or anything. So I put UK, and it didn't really make sense, but like it didn't really matter because sort of people picked up on it. People to this day, like, if they know me from back in the day, still call it If Only They Knew UK. I'm like, mate, just call it If Only They Knew. Like, just call it that. Like, yeah, like UK, just whatever, like, whatever. But yeah, like, from the black and white to the Union Jack, and then it was like the Union Jack, it just wasn't applicable to many things. Like, you couldn't really transfer that to all your branding stuff and marketing stuff. So I thought, you know what, I need a color. I need to stick to one color, so everyone that sees that color sort of knows it's me. And I like blue. Like, everything I pretty much own is blue. Like, back in the day, like, all my iPhone 5 or whatever it was, like the bright blue one, I had that. So like, everything was bright blue. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to stick with the bright blue. Yeah, and then there it is. I just wanted something to stand out, you know.
No, that's cool, man. I mean, I thought there might have been like a psychological application to it as well. I thought you might have chosen blue because it's positive and happy, and people think of thoughts when they see blue.
Yeah, it's calming, I guess. So it's sort of, I wanted it to look quite classy and quite calming, because it's for young people, isn't it? It's not like, it's just, I wanted to just be quite soothing, but also stand out. And I think, I feel like that was the perfect color.
No, that's fair enough, because obviously, as you say, it is for young people. Now, obviously, in terms of, you know, I'm just moving away from the branding and everything like that for a second. Obviously, in terms of IOTK as a whole, it is essentially it's a business media outlet for young people. Now, in terms of that fact, obviously, you know, the government's got growth hubs, Apprentice Trust, startup loans, all of that stuff. What do you intend to offer? Like, what's your vision for IOTK, like, moving forwards? Like, where do you see yourself with it in about 2-3 years?
It's something I ask myself every day, you know, because I didn't start it with any intention. I started it as a hobby, as a project, and then it sort of turned into something I just do. So ideally, I'd like it to sort of, like the tagline suggests, it's the hub for young business minds. So I want people to come here, but not just for the blogs, not just for the articles, the podcast, but like for entertainment value as well. Like, I sort of want to cross that divide.
Yeah, I've seen there's the music aspect in there as well, the health and fitness, which is good. It's a nice little cross.
I just want it to sort of, like, my idea is that business is in everything. So even if you're a rapper that goes around sort of getting bookings and doing music on a stage, you're essentially a freelancer. Even Greta Thunberg, I think her name is, or Thunberg, however you want to pronounce it. Like, I feel like there's business elements to what she does. Like, it's sort of,
don't tell her that, mate.
No, I won't. I'll never bring it up to any of her fans either. But I feel like it's like a PR type environment in terms of business. Like, it would be the PR sector. So I feel like, no matter, even if you're a boxer, say, you're again a freelancer. So I feel like there's business elements in everything. So it's about bringing all that together in one hub. If only they knew.
Nice.
Yeah,
I'll try and record that segment later. We'll do a little advertising from me. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
no, that's
nice,
cool, man. All right, so that's where you're going. And I did listen to a couple of extra bits yesterday, and obviously one of them is the importance of goal setting. Talk to me a little bit like that, because obviously from what you're saying, that's important to set yourself short-term goals and long-term goals. Obviously, short-term being within 6 to 12 months. See, I listen. And obviously long-term being longer than that. Now, what's your process for goal setting?
I think just start small, but think about what you actually want in the long term as well. Like, it's sort of a balancing act between figuring out what you really want in the long term and then sort of bring it back from there, and then go all the way down to small steps you can take. So for me, it's like every day, I know my small steps are just to create one bit of content, or get one bit of content lined up, get a podcast guest lined up, be a guest on a podcast like I am now. So it's just like little steps like that in order to sort of all add up, and eventually they'll accumulate and it'll get me to the big goal, which is exactly how I want the process to work out. So small steps all build up, and then I'll get to wherever I want to be, and I haven't decided what that looks like yet, but I know it's somewhere nice and lavish. So
somewhere with a couple of palm trees, mate, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No, that's cool. And in terms of, do you have like any specific process about, going over your goals, like redoing them, reformulating them, maybe making some assessments on them as well?
Yeah, I struggle with sort of getting tied up with like what I do normally, if that makes sense. So like with this, I'll get into a habit of book a podcast guest in, do this specific post, do this specific style of graphics, and I sort of get trapped in that bubble, and I struggle to sort of step aside and say, hold on, is this working or not, and sort of reevaluate it. Mm-hmm. So I find it important, like every couple of weeks, maybe once a month, step back and look at the results, what I've been doing, how they've worked, and sort of try and rearrange, find out what works. And you can do that on like a specific level, whether you're looking at analytics, like Google Analytics, like I can see what channels worked to drive people to the website, or you can just do that on like just a general level, just looking at it, and you get a gut instinct as to what you feel like worked best or not, No,
that's good, mate. It's good. I mean, I'm glad you've got a process like this early on into your career as well, man, because I think that's the most important thing. Like, I know there's a lot of crap out there where people talk about mindset, and yes, I know I do my own meditation crap in the morning as well, but I like to think that it clears your mind a little bit and just kind of, kind of I don't want to say it puts you in the present, because that's a proper buzzword, isn't it? Yeah. I don't know what other hashtags I can use right now, but I mean, I'm sure they'll be embarrassing. But it's good that you have a certain process to go ahead. You think you jot down exactly what you want to achieve, because it's behavior changing psychology at the end of the day. You have these little goals, you achieve them. Mate, you I don't know if you do checklists or not, but you have a little checklist, tick them off. There's nothing better in the world than ticking a box that you've already done. Yeah, I'm not really good at doing them in order though. It goes all over the place.
Yeah, I forget I've done a list. So I'll come back like in a couple of weeks. I'll be like, oh crap, I had a list to do. I'll just like, it's not the best for me, because I'm so forgetful. So I forget like about the whole to do list.
Oh well, or you go back and you realise you've done them all, and they do a big fuck off tick like that, mate. You're happy.
Yeah, just scrunch it all up. Yeah, go nuts.
So just moving on to your podcast. So this is obviously.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, here we go, mate. Here we go. This is obviously what I really want to get into, man, because
cool.
Naturally, how to start up is about trying to find out from someone who's going through it right now, specifically how to start up. It's as simple as that. So from your perspective, you kicked off when exactly did you kick off your podcast? Wasn't it? It was round about last year, was it not?
Yeah, so it was a couple of years ago, but like I said, I did one or two, like with a couple of weeks in between, sort of didn't market it at all, didn't promote it, and forgot about it. Mm-hmm. And like I said, in January, I sort of, I remembered, I had that podcast, didn't I? Like, why don't I see if I can do it again? And yeah, it sort of sparked off. But yeah, I'm so glad I started it back up, because it's sort of opened doors like this. I would never have done this probably if I didn't start the podcast when I did. So
yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, podcasts are such an emerging trend as well. I mean, they've gone from, I think like 1 in 3 Americans a year ago listened to at least a podcast a month or something like that. It's massive. And like, I know Gary Vee goes on about podcasts all the time as well. The new content is sound, bro. Yes, I'm sure it is. Got you, brother.
All right, mate. Yeah.
Got you, friend. Got you. Yeah, I mean, what made you start the podcast in the first place? I know it was a couple of years ago. Was it more just an adjunct to your site, or did you actually think, you know what, I could probably do something with this?
Yeah, I really started it because I wanted to. I don't know how to word this. Like, I wanted to be the voice that I wanted to hear, if that makes sense. Like, I was listening to certain podcasts, like The Diary of a CEO and stuff like that by Stephen Bartlett, which were good. Like, they were sort of hitting home to a certain extent, but I wasn't quite relating to it. And I was like, you know what, I feel like someone else is probably going through a similar position to this. Like, they're hearing stuff, it's clicking ever so slightly, but they're not relating on a certain level. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to start my own and hopefully be the voice for people like me. I don't know really what that is. I guess young handsome fellows, but but yeah.
Stop it. No, I think you're onto something there, mate. Because I don't think there's a huge amount out specifically for young entrepreneurs by young entrepreneurs. So I think you're definitely hitting home on something. And I think that's before I go into the actual creation. Actually, no, I'll go into the creation first. So, in terms of the simple stuff, mate, equipment, your little podcast intro, how you listed it. Let's start off with equipment. What did you decide to go? Did you go proper shoestring, or did you decide I've got a little bit of a budget here? Let's see if I can splash it.
I went with these bad boys. I went the AirPods to start off with, but I don't know if I can bring this in. But I've got like a massive rig here as well.
Okay.
So I sort of got the best of both worlds. But honestly, the rig I don't use. I only use it for lighting, as you can see now. So that's the only thing I use it for. So I started off just AirPods, walking in the park on my phone, using Anchor, the app Anchor. Have you heard of that?
Yes, I have. I actually downloaded it the other day and I didn't use it. Is that a mistake?
Oh, no. Yeah, it is, I think. Obviously, like this, you can't do video on Anchor. You can only do audio, but it sort of gets the job done, It does what it says on the tin.
Okay.
And it's free.
Yeah, I did see that. And Spotify owned, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I was speaking to Alex Chisnall, who's the host of Screw It, Just Do It. It's like a massive podcast. Speaking to him today, and he was telling me that I think Spotify have invested in it. I don't think they originally owned it, but I think they've invested in it. So there's a lot of new features being added on that sort of integrate with Spotify. We were sort of looking at that today. So it was like, oh, wow, like, I think there's going to be a lot more use for Anchor in the next few months.
No, I can imagine so, man. I mean, especially considering everyone's isolated at home. I mean, people need something to do. And if something like Spotify or anyone else is offering a free outlet to express yourself, then why the hell would no one take that up? It's just understandable.
Yeah, exactly.
So you've gone for a rig, you've gone for the AirPods, you've gone for Anchor, and you record everything on Anchor as well? Or do you use other?
Yeah, I record it on Anchor mostly, but the last week, I guess because what you said, everyone's using it. I've had a few issues with it. It's sort of the signal seems a bit iffy, So like after the recording, the audio's been overlapping. So I've had to sort of like take 20 minutes out of each podcast because it's just pure overlap and it just can't use it. So I've started to use Zoom, like to do video calls and record it on that, which I lost the recording on it. Yesterday or the day before, I recorded something and I lost that. So I think technically, like, I'm in a bad place at the moment because I don't know whether it's everyone using it at the same time or what, or maybe I just didn't click record. That is another possibility.
It's never your fault, right?
No, exactly. I blame Zoom. Yeah.
You're blameless, mate. Yeah, blame Zoom, blame Anchor. No, I mean, I imagine loading up an Anchor sounds or whatever. It's like watching the latest episode of Better Call Saul buffer on Netflix or something like that. All right, so that's your equipment. What about your podcast intro, that little orgasmic girl at the beginning, which I loved, by the way, and also was very surprised by it. Why did you decide to go with that, by the way?
My mate, I don't know whether he's still in the live or not. I think he's gone now. SK Beats. He's a music producer, and he wanted that sort of sensual intro to his music. And he used like a specific lady for that who does voice tags. And he was like, oh, if you ever want an intro, use that. And I was like, I'm not using that. It sounds too like whatever. It sounds a bit too iffy, a bit too suspect, I was like, no, I don't want to use that. It's a bit too like sensual. And then I listened to it again. I was like, you know what? I think people are going to comment on it like you just did there. So I was like, I'm going to use it. So I reached out to her and I was like, can you say this, and that? And it was like a £5 fee to get that done. But yeah, it's well worth the money.
Smart. Very smart. Yeah. Fair place to you. And obviously, the one thing that people obviously get hung about is first and foremost the equipment, the podcast intro, outro. I'm not sure you're not listing any of them on YouTube much, are you?
No, not really. I'm starting to now. I just want to drive. I want to drive iTunes, Apple Podcasts. Like that's what I want to drive mostly. My sort of personal goal. I don't think I've said this, but my personal goal is to like sort of get up at the charts in terms of the podcast charts on Apple. I just want to climb them. We got to 111 in the business charts. I think it was earlier this week. So I want to like keep climbing up that. And I think the only way to do that really is drive people to the actual podcast rather than YouTube. But yeah, I'm definitely I'm doing it slowly on YouTube, like uploading them as and when, especially if they're big names. It helps with like SEO and that sort of stuff.
Damn straight, man. I think more for a backup more than anything else. But you're absolutely right. I think in terms of focusing on a single media outlet, full stop. There's and especially if you invest in that as well and put all your focus on it. There's a lot to be said about that, and then it's a lot easier to spread from there as well. So I think you're absolutely right on that. So in terms of listing it, that's one thing that people get hung up on. It's listing it and where they go. And then just help me as well. But obviously, you list it on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Where else do you go? I mean, who disseminates that for you? Who sends it out to all of them?
Anchor, big up Anchor. They do everything for me. So you host it, you record it. Yeah. So you record it on Anchor. You click publish now or schedule. Like you can schedule it for a couple of weeks time. So I click publish now, and literally within half hour, 20 minutes, it will be on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, what else? Apple Podcasts, like all the major outlets and loads of small ones as well, which again helps with SEO. If you were to type in like If Only They Knew podcast, there'll be like 4 or 5 pages full of different outlets.
All right. Learning from the master at the moment. All right, I've got that. Right, so I've covered off the podcast bit, mate. One thing I did miss out actually is If Only They Knew. If Only They Knew. Like, why did you come up with that as a name? Now, my initial. Now, let me just give you mine while you're taking a sip of water. My initial understanding of If Only They Knew, because I knew it was If Only They Knew UK. If Only They Knew, is that supposed to be? Is that directed at people that are slightly older and having started a business, and it would have been better if they had known that younger? Or what does it mean? That was my interpretation. Maybe because that's directed at this old bastard.
Yeah, well, yeah, sort of. I guess there's different angles to it, and all things are sort of thought of when I decided on the name. But I wanted because I sort of did this as a project and I wasn't really getting anywhere in life in general. So when I created this, I was sort of in a weird position. I didn't have much, but I knew something was sort of in me. Didn't know what, but I just knew I could sort of do something if I put my mind to it. So I was like, you know what, like, let me do it and sort of prove people wrong. So that was sort of the element I was going for. And yeah, like if only they knew what I was capable of. Well, that was sort of the vibe. Yeah, that was sort of the vibe I was going down. And just like a few other things, like people don't really know much about like people's stories online, like my story, your story. People don't really know. So that was the whole premise behind the brand. Like, get out there, tell people who you are.
Good man. I like that. And if only they knew what I was capable of, man. It's almost like you've got something to prove and you're just going to do it anyway. And just like, look, you should have had faith in me then. And I like that, man. That's a really decent approach.
That's sort of that was the vibe behind it, just sort of get out there, smash it, and just let them find out who you are,
Good man. No, I like that as well. So obviously you've done exceptionally well so far. Like, I think one of the more important things that I wanted to bring up was your affiliation to the Apprentice contestants, because that's it's rather impressive what you've done so far. Obviously, you've had what was it, Charles Burns on. You had Sabrina. It's Sabrina Soccer, isn't it? Yeah, I'm terrible. Yeah, Apprentice contestants, but obviously these guys they've been on television. They've gone through the motions. I quite liked. I did listen to Charles Burns' podcast the other day with you, and what he was saying about, everyone's always commenting on the Apprentice, saying, any idiot could do that. And it was quite interesting what they were saying about how the Apprentice, all the production crew tried to manipulate things by saying, look, you undersold over there, or you bought too much for the price over there, or something like that. Bought too little. Yeah, that's it. And I found that quite interesting. But in regards to your process of approaching them in the first place, like how did you go about it? What was your first thoughts about why did you want to go for Apprentice contestants in the first place?
So like, just to sort of a little story that sort of linked to that. I actually applied for the Apprentice myself last year, I think it was late last year, and I went there. And like I got talking to people in the waiting room, And then we were talking about our business ideas, and I said mine. And like I sort of explained that I've had people from the Apprentice on, and oh my god, like how did you get to speak to them? Oh my god, like I've been reaching out to them for months, and they're not replying, stuff like that. I was like, mate, you just send them a DM, and that's like literally what I did. Like they didn't, obviously starting off, no one knew who I was, no one knew who the page was, and I think the Apprentice 2017, I think it was, is the first lot of people I've reached out to, and it was literally a case of just DMing them, sort of explaining what I do, and then one by one getting them all on, and it sort of built up that reputation. So now when I reach out to someone from the Apprentice, they sort of either already know about the page or sort of can get the gist of the page.
Okay, no, I like that. And obviously from there, it's just kind of like a cascade motion. And you just said what? You just DM'd them, so there was nothing more than just sending them a message on Instagram. That was it.
Just literally just on Instagram, not even Twitter back in those days. Just Instagram, reach out, just explain who I was very briefly, and I feel like they was excited. You know, I feel like they were sort of on that journey with me in a sense, because they were just starting off in their TV career. I was just starting off in my like social media career, and I felt like we had that link somehow. I don't know what it was, but they was really nice to me, like especially the 2017 lot, and then it went on from there.
Oh, that's cool. And from all the kind of young entrepreneurs, I mean, obviously you've had a couple of the Apprentice guys that you've interviewed so far. Like, have there been any like not generic, but general similarities between all of them? And obviously being young entrepreneurs, you've got to have this certain kind of vivacious attitude to get up and go. Like, what have you noticed any similarities between all the young entrepreneurs that you've interviewed so far?
Yes, it's the element of them that they're just sort of not by themselves, but they're not sort of relying on other people. I've sort of got that element from them. Like they're just like, oh yeah, I went to this thing the other day by myself. I went to this networking event, or I did this pitch by myself. And it's just a big element of sort of independence, and not, but more than independence, I think more just not relying on other people. I think that's a sort of a big thing I've sort of noticed in the people I talk to. It's like you just don't sort of care about what other people like say, like in terms of negativity. Like they're sort of like, whatever, I know what I'm doing, I'm going to go out and do it. And yeah, just spreading the positive vibes, but just sort of by themselves, like lone soldiers almost.
Lone soldiers. Okay. Yeah. No, that's decent, because that's what you seem to. I think that's what a lot of people seem to lack as well. I mean, this certain independence. I mean, I think that's, going back to the university thing as well. I think a lot of people end up going down these prescripted paths, and they don't end up taking ownership of their own lives, and they end up relying on a path that's already exists, and they go down it. A lot of them are dissatisfied. I mean, what Charles Burns was saying about obviously working at Tesco and realizing that it wasn't for him. So in that mind, you still think it's definitely a good idea to start a business off early, isn't it? From that respect.
Yeah. I think just do it. Like get the experience under your belt. If you're young, like if you fail, you fail. Like you've got plenty more years to sort of bounce back. Like I spoke to someone today who started a business at age 12. So it's like you can do whatever you want, sort of thing. Like the possibilities are endless. And think if he starts at age 12, or someone starts at 16, 18, 20, 25, like you've still got so many years to sort of have that readjustment period, and you can either get back to a normal life if you fail, or try again. So I feel like, there's options out there for everyone.
No, for sure, man. What kind of business did he start at 12?
I think it was like a freelance thing, doing like graphics or something for companies. Like he started off doing it for people, and then reached out to companies by himself. But yeah, like age 12 is mad. But he's the latest person on my Instagram that I sort of did an article about. I think he's called Yash. So shout out Yash if that's your name.
Yeah, well, shout out to Yash indeed. And I having a little listen to Sam Teal as well, that 17-year-old film videographer. Dude, watch a couple of his videos, man. They definitely stir up some emotions, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's what I said to him. I said, like, without trying to be rude or sort of have that stereotype, I thought 17-year-old, I don't know why I thought this, because I speak to so many young people doing amazing things, but in my head I sort of thought, hey, 17, like the videos are going to be okay or good. I didn't think they'd be as good as they are. Like they're pretty much amazing. So yeah, shout out Sam Till as well. I'm shouting out loads of people here, but yeah, his videos are next level.
Whoever you want, mate. No, he's done exceptional.
Yeah.
He even did that little video for Tesla as well. I don't know if it was directly for Tesla, but it had a Tesla involved.
Yeah,
so no, mate, he's done exceptionally well. I'll mention on Twitter as well. It actually made me want to support Huddersfield for a second.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, just for a moment, like it sort of got me in the heart, and I was like, no.
No, they're going down this year, or are they? You know what's happening.
No, but, who knows? Who knows, man.
I wanted to ask as well, because obviously you built up your Instagram following, exceptionally well now. What are you on? 2.1, 2.2K followers?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, about that. But I was stuck on 1,700 for about a year and a half. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like honestly, like I was literally stuck on. I went to 1,799 like last year or a year and a half ago, and I was like, yes, like finally gonna hit 1,800 and sort of move on from there. And it just got stuck, and I don't know why. So yeah, I finally got over the 2,000 line, and yeah, hopefully 10,000's next, and then 100,000, and then 1 mil.
Keep those sights set high, man. And
yeah, exactly.
What is your process on, kind of building that following? Like, what do you do? What do you do to increase it?
For me, again, I knew none of this sort of starting off early on, but it's just a case of when I first started, I was just following anyone and everyone, and sort of one by one, you get out of, say, if you follow 100 people, you get 10 people follow you back, say, and then even if one of those sort of like your content, that's one person sort of that will stick to your page. So it's like I just sort of kept doing that to grow the initial numbers, and then it was sort of word of mouth from there on in, I think, as well. Like, and a lot of obviously keeping up the content in terms of like daily content I was trying to do. I'm still trying to do. I think I'm sort of on track for that now, but keeping that structure in place so people sort of knew what to expect and had a reason to keep coming back. But yeah, word of mouth sort of that helped a lot.
Oh, mate, for sure. Word of mouth helps so much, especially when you're reaching out to a specific target market as well. And when you've got those young entrepreneurs and young, business minds, and, because young people in general now, 16, 24-year-olds, they're all focusing. I think there's been a huge shift towards being more entrepreneurial rather than focusing on university, which is what I brought up earlier. So you focusing on that, it really does make a difference, like spreading out words, But in terms of the posting, by the way, you said that you were going for daily posts. Do you post at a specific time every day, or?
Yeah, so I post about 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon, mostly because obviously when we're not on lockdown, that's when people are coming home from work and kids are coming home from school or already at home. So that sort of period is where I was aiming for, just so people aren't at school, aren't at work, and don't miss it. Because in the mornings, like, my page is dead. Like, there's the whole feed is just completely dead. Like, nothing going on at all, really. It's in the afternoons where it sort of comes alive and stays alive all the way until like the evenings.
Yeah, no. And what do you use to track that activity? Is it all yourself, or do you have any additional apps you use to monitor it?
No, it's just Instagram analytics. Like, I've set up a business account, obviously, so you can see all the insights. But to be fair, I don't really use them that much. I don't really like getting caught up in that stuff because I feel like I'm quite stubborn. I'm sort of going to do the post at that sort of time anyway, no matter what the insights say. Like, because the way I do my posts is I try and do one a day. I don't want to sort of saturate the page. I want to sort of try and keep the quality content where I can. So I try and structure it. And you've probably seen, if you looked at the Instagram, I'd have like a quote post that would divide the whole page. So it's 3 columns on Instagram. So 2 either side are like normal posts, like a post about a podcast or a blog, and the middle one's like a quote, just to sort of make it look a little bit neater. But I try and keep a nice structure, and I'll stick to 4 or 5 p.m. I sort of, regardless what the insights say,
Okay, fair enough.
They can't change me.
Oh, that's cool. And you haven't seen like a drop in number of likes that you get. Have you seen a certain pattern into where you get more likes which day, that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely all in the afternoon. But last year, I think it was, I was getting considerably a lot more likes than I am now. I don't know why that sort of happened. I know there was an algorithm change that Instagram made. I think last year or that sort of time. So that sort of impacted me quite a lot, because I was getting like 40 plus likes on each post regardless. And now I'm on like 20, 30, which are all Yeah, literally. But they're all quality people, which is the thing. It's not like it's 20, 30 random people. You know, I know every single one of them that like for the most part. So it's just I'm more focused on quality than quantity. You know, I can't wait for Instagram to remove the likes, the amount of likes you get. So it's just whatever the post is, it is, regardless of how many people like it. That's what I'm looking forward to.
That is an interesting one because I haven't looked into that enough, to be honest. Obviously, it will completely revalue a post at the end of the day, but it will. What will it therefore be based on? Will be based on the number of shares.
I'd like it to be based on the content, the quality of the content. Like, it doesn't matter who's sharing it, how many people sharing it. Like, why does it matter? If I put out the story of a young entrepreneur, you should be looking at the story of the young entrepreneur, not how many likes the post got, or this person liked it, or this got so many shares, or whatever. Because I feel like you focus on the numbers rather than like the actual content itself. And I feel like, what's the point? I might as well just put out a post that I know will get thousands and thousands of likes, you know, like go viral, whatever. Like, you could post stuff like that, but it's pretty much rubbish at the end of the day.
No, I mean, it has to be related to what you're talking about at the end of the day. But how else would you quantify it then? Because it would therefore make Instagram ads like defunct, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the only thing, you know, like I feel commercially it sort of changes the game a bit. I don't know how they'd work that. But for me, it's hard for me to comment because I'm not caught up in the numbers like that. I've been sort of on quite low numbers considerably when you think about it. I've been on quite low numbers, so I've sort of got used to it, you know. And for me, it'd probably benefit me if there weren't. Maybe if the numbers were still available, but maybe a bit harder to see. I think that's what Instagram was sort of suggesting they might do. I think they did it in like a state in America, or a small area of America, definitely. It would just say, like, click here to see the likes or something like that. So the likes are still there, but you just can't see it as blatantly because I guess a lot of people are caught up on seeing how many commas has this likes got, like, is it 10,000, 100,000, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see where they're going. I think the issue is, I mean, it's separating like actual decent content, informative content like yourself, or what I'd like to say myself as well, versus you know, a fucking cat electrocuting itself, or I don't know, falling into a vat of acid. That's not funny. That's not watching.
Yeah, no.
But it's one of those things. It's like, what actually is genuine entertainment? Oh, this one's got a lot of likes because it lasted a short amount of time and there's a cute cat in it. Great. This one's teaching how to start a business. This one got 8 million likes. This one got 8. Like,
it's annoying, especially for me, like I said, because it's sort of people I think are too caught up in that. But yeah, all I can do is focus on putting out what I think is decent content and hopefully has some value, even if it's sort of underlying, you know. If someone can get something from it, even if it's not intended, then I'll be happy with that. I don't really bother myself in numbers, you know.
Damn straight, mate. No, I like that approach for sure. I think that's the way that we look at it. And there's a lot of people don't, mate. A lot of people don't. A lot of people focus on the numbers and they focus on the paid ads and all that crap as well. I think you mentioned you're not massively into Facebook ads or Google PLAs or anything like that at the moment, are you?
No, not really. I've done a couple like Facebook ads and a couple Instagram ads, but it's not really seeing much back from it. Again, I think it just goes to the masses and not the quality people. I'm probably obviously not doing it right. Someone might be able to show me how to do it better in terms of reaching the right people, but I'm sort of reaching relevant people and it's just not having the same effect. So yeah, I'd rather spend my money on something else, you know.
Yeah, damn straight, man. I mean, you've done exceptionally well, as I said, like doing it organically as well. I mean, 2.2 is, you've done all right there, mate. So we're drawing towards the end now. What I was going to say to end everything off, I've got to ask you two things to do for me, mate. Can you do?
Go on.
All right. So
yeah, of course.
The first one would be, I need you to give me a pitch. I need you to pitch me.
Oh God, yeah.
Why everyone should come onto IOTK, listen to your podcast, and sign up to the business website. 10 seconds.
Cool. All right.
Elevator me, mate.
All right, cool. So you should come to If Only They Knew, because it's the hub for young business minds. And what that means is when you come over to my page, when you listen to my podcast, hopefully you'll be informed, hopefully you'll be inspired, and hopefully you'll be able to go out there and prove a point, make people know who you are, and just smash it. So come over to my page at If Only They Knew UK on Instagram and smash it with me. Yes.
Oh, the thumbs up as well, boys and girls.
Yeah, double thumbs up,
man. Yeah. And then last but not least, mate, can you do me a favor? Can you turn around, take yourself a selfie with me in the background?
Yes, of course. I'm on Instagram Live as well. So
nightmare, mate. See what we can do.
I know. So we'll have to come back and save this. Oh God. It's not. You're so bright. Hold on.
No, this might not work actually.
Yeah, it might not work. Oh, there we go. You can sort of see yourself there. There we go. We'll come back to that and save that.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Let's hope that works.
Excellent. My man, is there anything else that you want to tell young business minds out there before we close the sesh?
I think just one, obviously, besides following my page, following my podcast, I think another thing would just be, like I said in this, don't worry about anyone's opinion. If you want to do something, you can. And most importantly, you will. If you get out there, just get started. You'll find the way. No matter what it is, you'll find a way to do it. If you really want to do it, there'll be means and avenues of sort of getting that done. So if I can do it and I'm just a nobody, then you can do it,
Oh, mate, you're not a nobody. Stop it. No, well, look, mate, thank you so much for coming on, giving us your little story, your opinion on how to actually build a podcast, how to build a business, your point of view when it comes to goal setting. I thought it was fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on my first ever podcast. I hope I wasn't too weird. I mean,
no, I loved it, man. Loved it.
No, I appreciate it. Well, look, man, I'll have you on again at some point in the future, and
definitely
make sure that you're a multi-millionaire by that point. All right.
Yeah, hopefully. Give me a couple months, yeah? I need time.
Just two. All right, mate.
Yeah, just
Thanks
a couple.
again, mate. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers. Thank you, mate.